think kids should be allowed to name their own pets. The name we gave our first dog, my brother and sisters, we named our first dog Corpuscle. Yes, I know, my mom looked like a crazy woman standing at the back gate yelling, "Here, Corpuscle, here!" The neighbors are like, "That woman is calling her own white blood cells." So we named it because we saw a TV show. There was a fun TV show with a bloodhound on it named Corpuscle. You know, we didn't get the joke. And I didn't figure it out till I got to college, first day of biology class. Look, there's a whole chapter on my dog. I've been on hundreds of radio shows, and I really like doing them. Usually in the comedy clubs, they'd ask the headliner to do the show, but when I was the feature act and even the MC, I'd always ask if I could tag along. Most headliners were okay with it. You know, a lot of them hated getting up early in the morning to do radio, so they really appreciated the company. Usually the club owner drove us to the station, but sometimes we had to find our way on our own. And a lot of stations were really far out away from town, so they were hard to find, especially at 4 a.m. without MapQuest. I never missed a show, but I came really close. And once I got to the stations, I was surprised at how casual and sort of seat of the pants a lot of the shows ran. There wasn't a lot of structure, and you'd literally be brought in seconds before you were on the air. Now, I cut my teeth doing radio in college, Virginia Tech, WUVT. It was sort of a punk rock station. But when I got into comedy, I really cut my teeth back in D.C. when I started out on the Jack Diamond WRQX show. He was a really big name. I think he's still there now. And he and I got along great because he was organized, and I just love that. I'd give him a list of questions, like ask me about kids, ask me about dating, and I'd write underneath each question how many jokes I'd be doing on that subject. And it went perfectly. He really liked the lists and just asked the question. He'd know when to jump in when I was done with the jokes. Some DJs you'll have a problem with because they want to top you, or they have to be funnier than you because it's their show. He was just great at interviewing you, adding some humor, but not trying to be a jerk and top you. Really fun. I think he really liked having me on too, because once when he was out of town, he had me sit in with the substitute DJ to do the whole morning show. Then a few months later, when I was moving to LA, he had me on just to say goodbye, and we just talked. No jokes, no nothing. Just talked about going to LA, so it was very nice. Other stations, though, weren't so organized. Yeah, one radio show I was on in New Mexico mixed us up with the bookings, so they had me on at the same time as a filmmaker, which would have been okay, but the guy had a film he'd just come out with on swingers called Sex with Strangers. Yeah, and I'm a clean comedian. We had a lot of fun with it, and the show went well, but they really couldn't have picked two very polar opposite guests. I also remember one time being on this small station in Erie, Pennsylvania, where the big sponsor was a car dealer, and they were promoting electric ignitions, where you could turn your car on from inside your house so it would be warm when you went out to drive it. Yeah, they had given the DJ a free ignition so that he would promote it. The only problem was the device kept malfunctioning, and it would turn his car on at night. Yeah, so when he'd get in to drive it in the morning, it'd be out of gas. He was telling me about this problem, and we were kind of talking about it on the air when we heard his car turn on in the parking lot. Yeah, he went running out of the station while we were on the air. Pretty funny, and I got to do a little solo radio show for a few minutes. I got some nice compliments from radio people too, who said I was great on radio and that I should go into radio. But one of the nicest compliments I ever got was from a listener. I did a show in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that night at the comedy club, a guy came up to me and said he heard me on the radio that morning. He said he laughed so hard he almost wrecked his truck, so he had to come out to the show that night. Yeah, I felt good that he laughed and he didn't wreck his truck. The takeaway tip from this is the things you do in your past will really help you out in your future. You just may not know it at the time. You know, with COVID, I've been doing comedy and keynotes basically to my computer, all virtual. And at first I was worried about not being in front of a live audience until my friend's daughter said, "Jan, you've done hundreds of radio shows. Isn't this just like that? Joking around without an audience?" And she was right. Changing my mindset and drawing on my knowledge and experience of doing radio with no live audience really has helped me to do well with these virtual events. So that's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Feel free to check out my website, theworklady.com. This is Jan. Take care and enjoy your journey.